Most of you getting a paycheck right now are doing something financially catastrophic and you don't even know it. You work 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours a week. The money hits your account and within 72 hours, it's gone. Bills, food, a few things you didn't need. Maybe a dinner out because, hey, you earned it. And you tell yourself, next paycheck, I'll be smarter. But next paycheck comes and it goes and nothing changes. That cycle, that exact pattern is why 90% of Americans retire with less than $100,000 after 40 years of working. 40 years. Think about that. 4 decades of showing up, of trading your time, of grinding, and the average person has less than 100 grand to show for it. That's not a retirement, that's a crisis. I've built and sold companies worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I've sat across from thousands of entrepreneurs on Shark Tank and in boardrooms around the world, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, the single biggest wealth-destroying behavior isn't bad investments. It isn't the stock market. It isn't even debt. It's not having a system for your paycheck within the first 24 hours it arrives. Today, I'm giving you that system. 5 specific steps in a specific order that you execute every single time money hits your account. This isn't motivation. This isn't theory. This is the exact protocol I deploy if I were starting over with a regular paycheck, and it's the same framework I've seen turn ordinary earners into millionaires over 20 and 30-year timelines. If you follow this, and I mean actually follow it, not just nod along, close the tab, you will have more money working for you in 12 months than most people accumulate in an entire decade. But here's the thing most finance channels won't tell you. It's not about how much you earn. I've met people making $200,000 a year who are one missed paycheck away from financial ruin. And I've met people making $45,000 a year who are quietly, systematically building 7-figure wealth. The difference isn't income. The difference is the system they run every single payday. That system is what we're building today. Now, before I give you step 1, I need you to understand why most people fail at this, because if you don't understand the enemy, you can't defeat it. Here's what actually happens to your paycheck. It arrives. You feel a brief moment of relief, maybe even a little excitement, and then the spending window opens. Psychologists call it mental accounting. The moment money enters your account, your brain immediately begins allocating it to wants and needs, mostly driven by emotion. You see the balance. It looks like enough. So you spend a little here, transfer a little there, and by the time you think about investing, there's nothing left to invest. This isn't weakness. This isn't lack of discipline. This is human psychology operating exactly as designed, and if you're trying to out-discipline it, you've already lost. Winners don't rely on willpower. Winners build systems that remove the decision entirely. I don't wake up every morning and decide whether to deploy capital. It's automated. It's non-negotiable. It runs whether I feel like it or not, whether the market looks good or terrifying. That's the difference between someone who builds wealth and someone who just earns money their whole life. The protocol I'm about to give you has 5 steps. They run in a specific order, and that order matters. Skipping steps or rearranging them is like building a house, starting with the roof. Step 3, by the way, is the one most people either skip entirely or don't even know exists. I'll explain exactly why it's the most powerful step in the entire sequence in a few minutes. For now, let's start at the beginning. Step 1, kill the high-interest enemy. I want you to think of high-interest debt the way I think of it as a guaranteed negative return on your money. If you have a credit card charging you 24% annual interest, that debt is costing you 24% of every dollar you owe every single year. Let me put that in concrete terms. $5,000 sitting on a credit card at 24% costs you $1,200 a year, every year, while you sleep, while you're at work, while you're watching this video. Now tell me, where are you going to find an investment that guarantees you a 24% annual return? You're not. The S&P 500 averages around 10% a year. A high-yield savings account right now is giving you 4.5% to 5%. Nothing in a regular investor's toolkit returns 24% guaranteed. But paying off that credit card does. Every dollar you throw at high interest debt is a guaranteed risk-free return equal to whatever interest rate you're paying. That is the best investment you can make before any other investment. Here's my rule. Any debt charging you more than 7% interest gets attacked before you invest a single dollar anywhere else. 7% is roughly the threshold where the guaranteed return of eliminating the debt starts to beat what you'd reasonably expect from the market on a risk-adjusted basis. Above 7%, you attack it first. Below 7%, like a mortgage or certain student loans, you can carry it and invest simultaneously. Now, here's the exact execution. First, list every debt you have and its interest rate, not the balance, the rate, because we're attacking by rate, not by balance. The debt with the highest interest rate gets the most firepower, regardless of how small or large the balance is. This is called the avalanche method, and mathematically, it saves you the most money. Some people prefer the snowball method, attacking smallest balance first for psychological wins. I respect the psychology, but the math favors the avalanche. You decide which one you'll actually stick to, because the best method is the one you execute. Second, set your minimum payments on all debts to autopay. Non-negotiable, no late fees, no credit score damage, automated. Then, determine how much you can aggressively overpay on that highest rate debt every single paycheck. Even an extra $50 a paycheck on a $5,000 balance at 24% cuts the payoff timeline nearly in half and saves you hundreds in interest. Now I hear the objection already. Kevin, I want to start investing now. I don't want to wait until my debt is gone. I understand the impatience, but let me give you the math. If you invest $500 a month into the market while carrying a $5,000 credit card balance at 24%, your investment might return 10%. Your debt is costing you 24%. You are mathematically losing 14% on every dollar you invest instead of paying down that debt. You are not getting ahead. You are getting further behind while feeling productive. Kill the enemy first. Here's the good news. Once the high interest debt is eliminated, and we're talking weeks or months for most people, not years, every dollar you are throwing at that debt immediately redirects into steps 3, 4, and 5. The protocol doesn't change. The destination of that money does. You don't get a pay raise. You give yourself one by eliminating the debt that was stealing from you every month. One more thing on step 1. If you have zero high interest debt right now, congratulations. You skip directly to step 2 without hesitation. No detours, no excuses. Let's go. Step 2, build the war chest. Most people think investing is the first move when they have money. It's not. The first move is protection, because without protection, every unexpected expense in your life becomes a financial emergency that forces you to either go into debt or sell your investments at the worst possible time. A car repair, a medical bill, a job loss. These aren't if situations, they're when situations. And when they hit without a war chest, they reset everything you've built. Here's what I want you to build. 3 months of living expenses, minimum, sitting in a high-yield savings account. If you have dependents, variable income, or you're in a volatile industry, make it 6 months. I'm talking about your actual monthly expenses, rent or mortgage, utilities, food, transportation, insurance. Not your income, your expenses. Run that number, multiply by 3. That's your target. Now here's where I see people make a critical error. They build their emergency fund in a regular savings account at their bank, the one that's been sitting there for 15 years, paying them 0.5% interest. That is leaving money on the table every single month. Right now, a high-yield savings account at Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally Bank, or SoFi is paying 4.5% to 5% annual interest. Let me show you what that difference looks like. $10,000 in a traditional savings account at 0.5% earns you $50 a year. The same $10,000 in a high-yield savings account at 4.75% earns you $475 a year for doing nothing different, for clicking different buttons when you open the account. You are leaving $425 per year on the table, not because of bad investments, not because of the market, because of inertia. That ends today. The exact action for step 2, open a high-yield savings account. I'll say Marcus, Ally, or SoFi. They're all solid. Takes about 5 minutes online. Then set up an automatic transfer of 10% of every paycheck the moment it hits your account. Not after you pay bills, not whatever's left over. The first 10% moves automatically to that HISA before you ever see it in your checking account. That's the system. out of sight, out of accumulation. Once your war chest hits your target, let's say it's $15,000, that 10% stops flowing into the HISA. It redirects entirely to steps 3, 4, and 5. Your war chest just sits there, earning its 4 to 5%, doing its job, waiting for an emergency that may or may not come. And if an emergency does come, you handle it in cash, without debt, without touching your investments, and then you rebuild the war chest using the same 10% protocol. Clean, systematic, repeatable. Here's a quick win I want you to take before we move to step 3. If you paused this video right now, and opened a high-yield savings account on your phone, you would immediately be doing more for your financial future than 70% of Americans. That's not an exaggeration. Most people know they should have an emergency fund. Most people know regular savings accounts are a bad deal, and most people still do nothing. You're going to be different. One more thing before step 3. Drop in the comments right now. Do you currently have a high-yield savings account? Yes or no? I genuinely want to know where you're starting from. Because here's the thing, there's no shame in the answer. There's only action or inaction going forward. Now, remember when I told you step 3 is the one most people skip, and it's the most powerful step in the entire protocol? We're here. Once your war chest is locked and loaded, you're ready for the step that most people either don't understand, don't know about, or are never told about by their employer. And it involves the only guaranteed double in investing that exists. You've done the hard part. You've killed the high-interest enemy, the debt that was stealing from you every single month with a smile on its face. You've built your war chest 3 to 6 months of living expenses, sitting in a high-yield savings account, earning real money, protecting everything you're about to build. The first 2 steps, protect your money. The next 3, multiply it. And step 3, the one I told you most people skip, the one your employer probably never explained to you properly, starts right now. Step 3, capture the free money. I want you to stop and actually absorb what I'm about to say, because most people hear this and nod along without letting it land. Your employer may be offering to give you free money every single paycheck, and if you're not capturing every dollar of it, you are leaving a guaranteed return on the table that no investment in the world can match. I'm talking about your 401k employer match. Here's how it works. Your employer says for every dollar you contribute to your 401k, up to a certain percentage of your salary, we will match it. 50 cents on the dollar, sometimes dollar for dollar. The most common structure is a 50% match on up to 6% of your salary. Meaning if you contribute 6% of your paycheck to your 401k, your employer adds another 3% on top for free, instantly. That is a 50% guaranteed return on your money the moment it leaves your paycheck. Before the market does anything, before you pick a single fund, a 50% instant return. Let me show you what ignoring this costs you in real numbers. Say you earn $60,000 a year. Your employer matches 50% of your contributions up to 6% of your salary. 6% of $60,000 is $3,600 per year. That's your contribution. Your employer adds 50% of that $1,800 per year, free. Non-negotiable free money sitting there waiting for you to claim it. $1,800 a year invested at 10%. Average returns over 20 years becomes $114,000 from free money your employer was handing you, and you were walking past. Now, here's the number that should make you angry. Approximately 40% of Americans who have access to a 401k employer match are not capturing the full match. 40%, the average amount left uncaptured is $1,336 per year. That's not a rounding error. That's money your employer budgeted to give you that you declined. Over a career, that decision cost the average worker well over $100,000 in lost wealth for doing nothing more than adjusting a percentage in an HR portal. Here is the exact action for step 3. Log into your HR system today, not tomorrow, not after this video, today. Find the section for your 401k or retirement benefits. Identify 2 numbers. First, what percentage does your employer match? Second, up to what percentage of your salary? Then set your own contribution to, at minimum, that threshold. If they match up to 6%, you contribute at least 6%, not 5, 6. You are not leaving a single dollar of that match on the table. This takes 8 minutes, 8 minutes to capture what could be over $100,000 in lifetime wealth. One important note, Beyond the match threshold, don't pile more money into your 401k just yet, because step 4 is actually a better vehicle for most earners. Capture the match in step 3, then move to step 4. The order matters. Are you capturing your full employer match right now? If you're not certain, then uncertainty is your homework. Before this video ends, you find out, because if the answer is no, you have a paycheck coming and you know exactly what to do with it. Step 4, deploy to tax-free territory. Once you're capturing your full employer match, the next best move for most earners is to fund a Roth IRA. And I want to be very direct about what makes this account different, because this isn't just another investment account. This is a government-sanctioned tax shelter that allows every dollar inside it to grow completely, permanently, tax-free. Here's what that means in practice. You put after-tax dollars in money you've already paid income tax on. That money grows inside the Roth IRA for decades, compounding every year. And when you withdraw it after age 59 and a half, you pay zero taxes, not reduced taxes, not capital gains rates, zero. The government cannot touch a single dollar of growth inside that account. That's not a loophole. That's not a trick. That is the designed, legal, intended purpose of the Roth IRA, and the people who take full advantage of it are quietly accumulating hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax-free wealth that their peers are unknowingly giving back to the IRS. Let me show you exactly what the tax advantage is worth. $7,000 per year contributed to a Roth IRA. That's the 2025 annual limit. $8,000 if you're 50 or older, invested at 10% average annual returns for 30 years. The ending balance is $1,267,000, tax-free, every single dollar. Now run the same numbers in a regular taxable brokerage account, same contributions, same returns, same timeline, but you pay long-term capital gains tax on the growth when you withdraw. At 15 to 20% capital gains rates, your effective take-home is closer to $1,013,000. The Roth IRA just saved you $254,000 in taxes. $254,000 for opening a different account. That is not a small difference. That is a life-changing difference. Here's the exact execution for step 4. Go to fidelity.com. I recommend Fidelity for most people because there is zero minimum to open an account. They offer fractional shares, and they have a fund called FZROX, the Fidelity Zero Total Market Index Fund, with a 0% expense ratio, not 0.03%. Zero. You are paying nothing in fees while owning a piece of the entire U.S. stock market. Alternatively, Vanguard is the legendary originator of index fund investing. Use VTI, the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, at a 0.03% expense ratio. Both are exceptional. Both will serve you well for 30 years. Open the Roth IRA online. It takes 10 minutes. Set up a monthly auto contribution of $583 at $7,000 divided by 12, directed automatically into FZROX or VTI. Then turn off the alerts. Stop checking the balance every week. The protocol runs whether the market is up, down, or sideways. That is the point. Now I want to address the objection. I already know some of you are thinking, Kevin, the Roth IRA is locked until I'm 59 and a half. What if I need that money before then? Here's what most people don't know, and this is important. You can withdraw your contributions, not the gains, the actual dollars you put in from a Roth IRA at any time, for any reason, without penalty or taxes. Only the growth is locked until retirement age. So this account is not as inaccessible as most people believe. It offers extraordinary flexibility alongside extraordinary tax advantages. There is no reason not to use it. This is the step most people skip, by the way. Remember I said that at the beginning. They skip it because opening a new account feels complicated, because they've never heard of FZROX, because they don't understand the tax advantage until someone sits down and runs the numbers for them. You just had someone run the numbers, $254,000 in tax savings. You're not skipping this step. Step 5, put the soldiers to work. You've eliminated the high interest enemy. Your war chest is built and earning real interest. You're capturing every dollar of your employer match. Your Roth IRA is funded and compounding tax-free. Now and only now, any remaining investable cash from your paycheck goes into a taxable brokerage account to buy income-generating assets, assets that pay you every quarter while you sleep. This is where the income multiplication piece of the protocol lives. because the goal isn't just to accumulate a large number in an account somewhere. The goal is to build a stream of income that runs independently of your job so that eventually your money earns more than you do. That's what 10xing your income actually means. Not 10 times your salary, 10 times your wealth building rate. Building a parallel income engine that compounds alongside your career. Here's what I want you to buy in this account. VOO, the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF for broad market growth exposure. VYM or SCHD, dividend growth ETFs that pay you quarterly distributions that increase over time. These aren't exotic instruments. They're boring, battle-tested, institutional-grade assets that wealthy people have been quietly accumulating for decades. The reason they're not talked about more is because there's no commission for a broker to earn recommending them to you. They're just good, reliable, compounding. Let me show you the income math. $500 a month into VOO for 20 years at 10% average returns builds to approximately $382,000. At that point, the dividends and distributions generated by that portfolio without selling a single share amount to roughly $11,000 per year. That's $900 a month in passive income from $500 a month deployed consistently for 20 years. That's the soldier doing its job. You deployed the capital. The capital went to work. And now it pays you every quarter, whether you show up to work or not. Here's my scaling rule, and this is non-negotiable. Every time your income increases a raise, a bonus, a side hustle, a tax refund, any windfall, a minimum of 50% of that increase goes directly into the protocol, not into lifestyle, not into a bigger car or a nicer apartment. 50% minimum into steps 3, 4, and 5. The other 50% is yours to do with as you choose. I'm not saying deprive yourself. I'm saying every income increase is an opportunity to widen the gap between your earning and your spending. People who build serious wealth do not let lifestyle inflation eat every raise they receive. They split it, half to life, half to the machine. What would you do with $1,000 a month in passive income? I genuinely want to know. Drop it in the comments, because that number is not a fantasy for someone who runs this protocol consistently over 15 to 20 years. It's math. Now let me show you what the entire protocol looks like deployed on a real paycheck, because I want this to be tangible, not theoretical. The median American take-home paycheck, paid biweekly, is approximately $2,800 after taxes. Run the protocol at 20% invested, that's $560 per paycheck deployed into the system. $560 every 2 weeks equals $13,440 invested per year. Now let's run that forward. At 10% average annual returns, 10 years from now, that's $233,000. 20 years, $853,000. 30 years, $2,530,000. Total amount you contributed over 30 years, $403,000. The market generated the remaining $2,127,000. You did the work once setting up the automation. The protocol did the rest.